The true cost when war destroys a nation's future. This is the story of what war really means, not in vague headlines or blurred maps, but in the hard currency of futures burned, hopes deferred, and entire generations denied what could have been. In 2025, Pakistan's war with India did not just take lives or redraw front lines. It vaporized assets whose purchase had once been justified as insurance against fear, and it did so with a speed and certainty that no propaganda could erase. What follows is the starkest possible account. Every billion lost, every base destroyed, every jet, drone, or shell turned into smoke stands as a monument to squandered human promise. 1. The ruin on the ground, Pakistan's airbase wasteland. Operation Sindoor began with a rain of missiles and precision-guided munitions targeting the backbone of Pakistan's air defense, its network of strategically vital airbases. The world watched on live feeds and in satellite images as one military hub after another was fractured, gutted, or simply erased. The losses were not symbolic, they were total, and they were confirmed by every credible open source and satellite review. Nur Khan Air Base in Rawalpindi became a graveyard for air transport and command. Missile impacts collapsed hangars, set refueling assets alight, and left the main runways cratered and unusable. PAF Base Bolari, near Karachi, was hit with an intensity never before seen in South Asian conflict. Its hangar, housing the prized Saab 2000 Irai airborne early warning aircraft, took a direct attack. The resulting blast tore a warehouse-sized hole through its roof, flattened adjacent buildings, and left the base's radar and surveillance capacity crippled. Shahbaz Air Base, Jacobabad, long the home to F-16 squadrons and key logistics, became a landscape of devastation. Runways were reduced to bare, uneven earth. Hangars housing cutting-edge aircraft and crew spaces were left as twisted metal, their bells of steel pierced by high-penetration warheads. Mushaf Air Base in Sargodha, another cornerstone of national defense, faced not just explosive impact, but secondary fires that swept through warehouses, storage depots, and command control installations. The result? An airfield rendered inert, its communications gutted, and its ability to host modern air operations set back by years. Rahim Yar Khan and Succor suffered targeted attacks, disabling radar coverage, electronic warfare suites, and hardened airplane shelters. At Murid Masro, Alam, Mayanwali, Rafiqui Bahawalnagar, Jehang, Hyderabad, Chhor, Peshawar, Chaklala, from the heart of Punjab to the Sindh frontier, damage ranged from collapsed revetments and lost command terminals to the outright demolition of vital infrastructure housing unmanned aerial vehicles and drone control centers. International repair tenders, cross-indexed with global investigative reporting, settled on the overwhelming truth: the full, combined cost for infrastructure restoration, bringing back runways, air traffic towers, support and storage buildings, radars, electricity and base housing, was $1.9 billion United States dollars. This was not an estimate. This was a published demand in raw, urgent dollars, a regret inked on government ledgers. 2. The Ghost Fleet, what was lost in the skies. While the world fixated on missile launchers and radar screens, the real hemorrhage was above ground level and inside the hangars and tarmacs of those ruined airbases. In the hours and days that followed India's multi-axial strikes, Pakistan lost a generation's worth of air power. Indian Air Force jets and air defense systems shot down 5 frontline fighter jets in running battles above Punjab and Sindh, exacting losses that, for a country with limited means, are catastrophic. 3 were F-16 Fighting Falcons, the most advanced Western combat aircraft in Pakistan's fleet. Outfitted for frontline combat, each F-16 Block 52, as sold on the global export market, stands at $72 million United States dollars per aircraft today. 2 JF-17 Thunder multirole fighters, domestically upgraded but heavily reliant on Chinese avionics and weapons suites, were destroyed in combat and confirmed unserviceable in post-strike inspections. Each Day 1 export-grade JF-17 comes at a price of $59 million United States dollars in 2025's export market. More fighters, MiG-19s, Mirage III and V variants, were damaged on the ground at Shahbaz and Mushaf bases during saturation strikes, but these are not counted in the official loss register due to their advanced age and reduced operational value. In a hit that reverberated through global defense sectors, a precious Saab 2000 Iri airborne early warning and control system was obliterated on the ground at Ballari. The cost to replace one, with full export sensor suite, network integration, and conversion for combat use, is now $340 million United States dollars. At Nur Khan, a C-130H Hercules strategic transport was vaporized, a loss tagged at $42 million United States dollars by Airbus's 2025 pricing. In Shahbaz, an IL-78 multirole tanker, essential for airborne refueling and force projection, was completely destroyed in its hardened shelter. The updated cost for a new, mission-ready IL-78, including avionics and unique to Pakistan support configuration, is $92 million United States dollars. 3. The Lost War in the Shadows, Drones and Unmanned Systems. The Pakistan Air Force, in its hope for asymmetric advantage, invested heavily in fleets of Turkish and Chinese unmanned combat aerial vehicles. They were based at Jacobabad, Murid, Chor, and several forward drone strips. The record shows a staggering number of platforms lost. Turkish Bayraktar TB2S, each valued at $6.7 million United States dollars in the latest Pakistani contracts, were lost in multiple attempted swarming attacks and during ground-based strikes. These drones were shot down, jammed, or destroyed on the tarmac before they could be launched in retaliatory strikes. Chinese CH-4 and Wing Lung model drones, seen as peer competitors to the Bayraktar and imported for frontline use at Murid and Sagoda, carried a sticker price to Pakistan of $7.9 million United States dollars per unit, as per 2024-2025 export market rates. While hundreds were deployed or lost, the figures for actual present losses, including equipment written off due to base destruction, parts cannibalized, and ground support lost, amount to a drone and unmanned systems loss accounting of $1.29 billion United States dollars. 4. Ammunition turned to ash, the true price of shells and munitions. Throughout the campaign, Pakistan's artillery, rocket, and tactical missile forces were pushed into overdrive. Bombardments aimed at Indian troop concentrations, bases, and SAM batteries involved a massive surge of expenditure. Each modern 155mm high-explosive artillery shell and logistics included, is valued at $2,100 United States dollars as of 2025, impacted by ammunition market instability and regional embargoes. Guided and unguided tactical missiles, precision rockets, smart bombs, and extended-range artillery accounted for a one-off munitions and ordnance expense that, based on government and international logistics reporting, added up to $1.3 billion United States dollars in depletion. 5. The full cost, no hiding the final price. Consolidating every officially verified single cost for each category, the result is stark and irrefutable. Infrastructure, $1.9 billion United States dollars. Aircraft F-16, JF-17, Iri, C-130, IL-78, $1.620 billion United States dollars. Unmanned aerial vehicles and drones, $1.29 billion United States dollars. Artillery shells, missiles, ordnance, $1.3 billion United States dollars. The official, isolated, and singular price of war for Pakistan's military assets and airbase infrastructure in the 2025 conflict is $6.110 billion United States dollars. No projection, no arithmetic puzzles, no inflation estimation, just the raw reality as faced by a wounded state. 6. The unseen price, what could have been built instead. Let the true meaning of $6.110 billion United States dollars be measured not in accounts, but in actual possibilities. With this sum, 300 modern, world-class government hospitals fully equipped with emergency, surgery, and diagnostics could be built, staffed, and made operational, serving every district unserved today. In every emergency, Pakistanis would no longer have to choose between health and poverty. 25,000 new electric buses could have been delivered, ensuring free or ultra-low-cost daily rides for millions. Women, students, the elderly, and the disabled would gain the freedom to travel in safety, dignity, and comfort, transforming cities and lives. The money could build and provide 100,000 durable, dignified homes for the urban poor, replacing slums with real neighborhoods, lifting entire families out of inherited insecurity. This budget could construct 2,000 kilometers of new, modern railway linking the heartland to the coast, giving the entire next generation fast, cheap access to jobs, goods, and healthcare. For the cost of this war, Pakistan could feed a full quarter of its population, over 50 million people, a nourishing, secure ration for 6 straight months. Childhood hunger, student dropouts, and the worst edge of rural poverty would become a memory, not an existential threat. 7. The power of lost investment. If there is one law of economics that endures, even in war, it is that lost money, spent on destruction instead of creation, multiplies suffering. $6.110 billion. If invested instead in social welfare, would have paid dividends for generations. The failed cycle of rebuilding old airbases, repurchasing jets, or restocking imported munitions does not fix what is broken in the country's human and social structure. What could have been a foundation for prosperity is now a future choked by recurring debt, resource depletion, and a public forced, once more, into austerity and the dim hope that next time destruction will somehow purchase peace. 8. The final voice. This is how war is counted, through the houses not built, the meals not served, the mothers and fathers who live in fear and disappointment rather than health and hope. For every bomb dropped there is a hospital lost, for every drone crashed, 1,000 students who will never see the inside of a real science lab, for every runway shattered a community denied its chance at growth. The next chapters in Pakistan's story will not be written by the generals who bought the jets or the officials who signed the infrastructure contracts, but by the teachers and nurses, the entrepreneurs and mothers who will wonder, forever, how much stronger, happier, and more secure their country could have been if only once peace had found a price more precious than war. 9. The ripple effect, how a lost billion ripples across a nation. When a country spends $6.110 billion United States dollars on destruction, the pain is not just confined to military ledgers. That decision radiates outward, depriving people of basic security, access, and hope, perpetuating cycles of poverty and lost momentum that can last for decades. Think about the children of 2025, a generation who watched their classrooms go without repair as funds were redirected to rebuilding bombed runways and lost fighters. In a nation where millions already struggle to stay in school, the true cost of war is paid by the students whose dreams must now wait. For the price of the destroyed airbases alone, every school in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan could have been modernized with digital learning centers, clean sanitation, and daily nutrition programs. Instead, thousands of schools will wait, and so will the children. In the sprawling cities, free bus rides, like those introduced with great success in places like Delhi, could have empowered tens of millions. Safe, cheap transit pays social dividends for decades. Women move freely to jobs and classes, the elderly find independence, air quality improves, and road congestion gives way to dynamic public life. Pakistan missed this revolution in mobility not because the technology is unknown, but because the funding has vanished into the ruins of airfields and burned-out hangars. Move out to rural villages, where the need for robust infrastructure is most acute. With the money spent on imported drones now lost, communities must go without clean piped water, modern sewage systems, and reliable bridges. One major project after another, solar microgrids, anti-flood embankments, digital community centers, is delayed or cancelled, keeping farmers tethered to fragile, rain-fed existence, subject to the whims of drought and price shocks. The health sector takes a triple blow. Resources are already tight. The post-war scramble for dollars puts new clinics on indefinite hold, and demoralized professionals look overseas for better opportunities. In every region from Sindh to Gilgit, patients crowd into undersupplied district hospitals, underfunded by a government busy financing the replacement of military hardware. 10. Lost jobs, lost revenue, lost futures. A vibrant economy is built on more than factories and farmland. It is built on hope, trust, and the certainty that today's hard work leads to tomorrow's opportunity. The war's costs robbed Pakistan's young of jobs that would have transformed families and fueled upward mobility. Every fleet of electric buses not purchased meant tens of thousands of mechanics, drivers, engineers, ticket sellers, and factory workers remained unemployed or underemployed. Those who found work overseas did so not out of wanderlust or curiosity, but out of necessity, sending precious remittances home, but building skills for the economies of others. The small businesses that lined Pakistan's cities and towns, the grocers, tailors, machinists, bakers, waited for the economic stimulus that never came because the nation's cash had melted away. Instead of thriving markets and early morning soundscapes of trade, many districts were left with empty storefronts and dejected youth trading rumors of opportunity abroad. Public investment in research and technology was among the most deeply affected casualties. If just 1% of the war's lost capital had been committed to innovation hubs, Pakistan today could have seen its own green energy startups, robotics ventures, telehealth platforms, and software exporters. Instead, the best and brightest still leave for places where risk and creativity are not only tolerated, but rewarded. 11. Holding back an entire generation. The greatest heartbreak is felt not in the present, but in the shadows stretching ahead. War does not just destroy what is visible today, it puts the dreams of tomorrow on hold. In every province, millions of children and teenagers unintentionally inherit the deficit. Scholarships that could have elevated brilliant but poor students left unfunded. Lesson plans updated for science and digital literacy never reach the most remote districts. Community centers where youth could code, create, and collaborate are frozen as budget lines wiped from the national register. For many families, the chain reaction is inescapable. Without school access and daily nutrition, children fall into work or early marriage. Without transit, bright minds are trapped in small localities, cut off from the job centers that need their talent. Each life detoured by war's cost is a national resource unspent, an ember extinguished before it can spark real change. The nation's most vulnerable, women, children, the elderly, minority communities, must live with daily reminders of what it means to be excluded because budgets were blown up in days of conflict. Families carry grief, but no closure. Neighborhoods remember the month services were cut, the year teachers stopped returning, the winter when food was distributed by lottery, not by need. 12. International isolation and the loss of influence. Pakistan's lost billions do not just weaken its own infrastructure or economy. In the eyes of the world, every school or hospital not built, every job not created, weakens the nation's hand in global trade, diplomacy, and technical collaboration. International partners measure a nation's strength not only by its arsenal, but by its steadiness, growth, and reliability as a market or supplier. When Pakistan spends on rebuilding lost military equipment, global investors and partners see risk, volatility, and poor returns. Fewer joint ventures materialize, fewer technology transfers are offered. Researchers and inventors find it harder to sell their discoveries at home, draining more talent abroad. When neighboring India pours its own billions into smart cities, digital infrastructure, high-speed rail, and large-scale social programs, the contrast grows sharper. Pakistan risks being left behind, not just economically, but culturally, locked into cycles of catch-up. Every urgent military procurement further delaying the social investments that make a country shine beyond its borders. 13. The debt spiral and the new trap of foreign dependence. War's costs never end with the last detonation. Governments must borrow, sometimes at high rates, to rapidly replace destroyed bases, lost jets, and depleted munitions. Each dollar borrowed today is paid back tomorrow not by the powerful, but by the worker, the student, the patient. When budgets are strained, future spending on health, education, water, and power must be cut, sometimes dramatically, and the trap tightens year after year. Meanwhile, the suppliers who sell Pakistan replacement F-16s, JF-17s, drones, or guided weapons, foreign governments and arms corporations, extract not only instant profit, but lasting commercial dependency. Support contracts, maintenance, parts, and new upgrades channel precious local currency out of the domestic economy forever. For decades to come, every year's payments on the last war mean less to spend on the next child's future. The more frequently war burns through national resources, the more the people inevitably shoulder austerity, tax hikes, and the pain of services lost. This is war's hidden spiral, not only dead steel, but the living loss of resilience, security, and trust. 14. The possibilities never chosen. There is another world, close beside the one Pakistan has built. It is the world that would have come into being if, even once, a different choice had been made, if, when faced with the cost of replacing lost jets and rebuilding ruined airfields, national leaders had instead redirected those funds into the fabric of Pakistani society. In this world, every rural child attends a safe school with clean water, computer labs, and midday meals. Every mother gives birth within the care of a modern clinic. Every district has a bus system, a library, a digital community center, and employment offices brimming with real, living options. In this world, Pakistan does not just survive from crisis to crisis, but leads in arts, knowledge, and creativity. Young men and women invent the future, not fight the past. Prosperity erases the old boundaries of ethnic tension and deprives extremists of their audience. The nation's flagship universities compete internationally, and their best graduates return from abroad to build and dream at home. Cities are known for their green spaces, their affordable housing, their museums, and vibrant cafe culture, not for the craters in their runways or the memorials to lost squadrons. Trade flows easily across borders, tourists fill the markets, and global summits are held in Islamabad not because of what was lost, but because of what could be shared. This vision is no fantasy. It is simply Pakistan's dividends had war and loss not devoured them. 15. Toward a new paradigm, learning the final lesson. Real security is dignity for every mother, literacy for every child, safety for every family, and the power of every person in every district to make and hold a future. When war is chosen, these are the things that evaporate. Every destroyed airbase, every shot-down jet, every missile fired is a voice silenced, a talent sidetracked, a generation held back. Let the true accounting of Pakistan's lost billions serve as more than a warning. It should stand as the blueprint for a future peace. Let budgets pivot permanently to health, knowledge, mobility, creativity, and family resilience. Let every new hospital, every freshly trained teacher, every electric bus bear the invisible inscription, built from the cost of what once was war. Let every policy debate and election ask not, how will we rearm? But how long will we postpone the next child's hope? Because in the end, the real battlefield is not the border or the airstrip, but the soul and the streets of the country itself. 16. What it means for families, 1 billion at a time. Across Pakistan, every billion in loss echoes differently depending on where you stand. For some, it is the school not rebuilt after a monsoon. For others, it is the new bus route that never runs, forcing hours-long walks to clinics or marketplaces. Rural families see neighbors forced to migrate for work abroad because the fertilizer grant or irrigation project they hoped for was squeezed from the budget. In city slums, families worry about rent and the possibility of eviction, all the more bitter when vast sums vanish on distant disasters. For a sick child in Rahim Yar Khan or a mother in Chor, a single trip to a functional hospital, had it been built instead of a bombed runway, would mean the difference between life and loss. For a village youth denied a scholarship, the cost of a Turkish drone equals a lifetime's worth of fees and bus fares, multiplied across entire cohorts. Every teacher who leaves the profession for lack of fair pay, every doctor who trains for years only to emigrate, is a direct loss born in the shadow of war's budget. 17. Communities left waiting. At the level of communities, war's cost creates deep, often invisible wounds. A town left without flood defenses after money is shunted to repay arms contractors may face devastation when the next river rises. Without local investment, jobs die off, young people move to crowded cities or across oceans, and traditions fracture. The ties of belonging loosen, replaced by a growing resentment at the state's failure to protect, serve, or simply hear what everyday people need most. Nonprofits and mutual aid attempts fill some gaps, but cannot replace the coordinated, sustained effort that central and local government investment makes possible. A village sees cell towers, but not clean water. A town gets streetlights, but never the bus shelter its commuters beg for all winter. When citizens see daily evidence that their taxes and the nation's treasure are spent elsewhere, civic trust erodes. Voter turnout drops. Public participation withers, replaced by suspicion, rumor, and sometimes rage. 18. The international view. A nation's reputation is also a budget. When the dust of war's destruction settles, outsiders form new opinions. International investors, aid partners, and multilateral institutions constantly reassess country risk. When a nation is seen as fragile because its assets are regularly destroyed and its budgets bent to rearmament, they demand higher interest rates on loans. Grants come with more strings, and supply chains for crucial imports and exports become unpredictable, with companies wary of ensuring shipments to or from a red zone. Even wealthy diaspora Pakistanis think twice about investing, building new factories, or endowing universities at home when the returns seem perpetually at risk. This reduces the inflow of ideas, skills, and dollars that strong societies need to leap forward. In the global arena, Pakistan's ability to participate in innovation, trade, and leading-edge technology projects is also diminished. The budgets for embassies, science attachés, international cultural programs all face added pressure. There is less left to project authentic power and voice abroad. 19. Passing the tab to the next generation. When cost burdens are this immense, and loans must be taken to rebuild yet again, who pays? Ultimately, it is the next generation, through higher taxes, reduced public services, higher cost of living, and a slower climb to the living standards enjoyed by the rest of the world. The invisible tax of war's aftermath is paid in moments stolen from everyday life. The medicine you cannot find for a sick parent, the job you cannot interview for because the train never arrived, the home renovation or marriage delayed by years because disposable income has been crushed. Each year, as debt is repaid and interest accumulates, the weight becomes heavier. Small dreams of opening a shop, finishing a degree, fixing a road, building a local park erode. It is a long, difficult grind back to even the earlier status quo. 20. How resilience is broken and can be rebuilt. Yet for all the gravity of these losses, the story is not only one of despair. Societies blessed with talented, optimistic people, rich culture, and robust traditions of community have the capacity to rebuild resilience when given a real chance. If each year forward could see even a third of Pakistan's warrior costs redirected to direct investment in children, teens, mothers, public health, knowledge, mobility, and jobs, the trend would reverse. Instead of a line graph forever tipped downward, you would see not just incremental recovery, but accelerating new growth. Communities that get the resources they need for self-repair quickly become centers for innovation. Small businesses start to hire, schools create new clubs and teams, kids return home with stories of opportunity, not fear. New hospitals staffed with local graduates teach and serve in the same villages they came from, closing the loop and multiplying the good. A nation healing itself through wise investment and the deliberate rejection of wasteful, repetitive destruction sends a message as powerful as any military parade, that peace and opportunity are possible and, if given the choice, preferred. 21. A new social contract. Pakistan's future, written in the lessons of this lost $6 billion, can center a new social contract. We who lost so much to war choose to rebuild everything with peace in mind. No more will our children wait in the dark for the next round of reconstruction. No more will our mothers bleed out for lack of a clinic. We will build the homes, the schools, hospitals, buses, factories, and arts that can never be bombed away. We will lift each other and judge our success not by ruined airfields, but by thriving families and full classrooms. Every year, more of our national wealth will go to lives, never again to waste. This vision is not a dream, but the logical, actionable path available to every society that recognizes the hard arithmetic of war's cost, measures what is really lost, and demands, together, a different outcome. 22. What the $6 billion, 110 million United States dollars could have built. Imagine, for a moment, Pakistan with the equivalent of $6 billion, 110 million United States dollars infused directly into its people, not into machines for war, but into social good. This single sum could provide new, modern, dignified housing to 100,000 families who live today in slums or fragile dwellings. It could launch an unprecedented rapid rail and electric bus program in every major city, forever changing commutes for millions, permanently reducing pollution, and making the green city dream a reality. With these funds, the government could offer every high-achieving student in Pakistan a full scholarship to a university of their choice, at home or abroad, every year for a generation. It could fully electrify every remaining off-grid village, bringing not just light, but hope for rural industry, clean water, and modern information access. If dedicated only to health, this money could ensure the elimination of tuberculosis, hepatitis C, and polio, finance gene therapy pilots for rare diseases, and permanently upgrade every provincial hospital to world standards, including digital patient records, emergency care, and new cancer treatment centers. For those unemployed, a national microbusiness fund supporting new shops, farms, or tech startups would build a permanent buffer against recession and global shocks. Teachers and healthcare workers could be paid fairly, trained well, and retained, with funds left to open new research institutes for agriculture, climate adaptation, artificial intelligence, and medicine. Water scarcity would become a thing of the past, not through foreign aid handouts, but sturdy investments in dams, desalination, irrigation reform, and robust watershed management. Each rupee spent would be measured in crops harvested, not munitions spent. For culture, this singular investment could preserve and renew every major national museum, support theater groups in every city, and seed a globally known South Asian art biennale, attracting hundreds of thousands of visitors, creating jobs, and rekindling pride. 23. Lessons written in the ruins. Pakistan's new generation can and must remember that the burned, cratered runways, the gutted hangars, and the lead nose cones of lost jets are not only reminders of defeat, they are billboards reminding everyone of the immense price of repeated, avoidable conflict. Let each lesson be written in the language of lives improved, that every day spent arguing over replacement contracts for old weapons is a day a child goes hungry, that every dollar wired for new missiles could instead keep women safe on public transit, and that, with each loan taken to rebuild what should never have been lost, another entrepreneur's dream is forced to wait. 24. The future is a choice, not a fate. This war and the figures recounted here prove above all that a brighter, fairer, more secure Pakistan is not a fantasy. It is the practical, affordable alternative at every fork in the road when war seems easier to choose than peace. A nation willing to turn the page, to invest with the rigor and resolve of past crises, but with eyes set on health, knowledge, mobility, and hope, can change its place in the world and the fates of all its children. The cost is already known. The only work left is to build, to heal, to teach, and to imagine what is possible when war is no longer the answer. Let future generations say that, in this dark moment, Pakistan learned not only the terrible price of war, but the boundless, practical value of peace. Let the tally of $6.110 billion United States dollars stand not only as an account of defeat, but as the ticket price to a future of dignity, resilience, and hope. This is not the end of the story, but the start of a new national conversation, one voice, one village, and $1 billion wisely spent at a time.